This is Library Nerds with Words, the podcast that gives you the word on all the cool, nerdy happenings at Peter White Public Library and the library universe beyond. From books and concerts to search engines and story times, the library nerds are in and ready to show you that being a nerd can be cool. Get ready, get set, get nerdy. Welcome back to Library Nerds with Words, the podcast that gives you the word on all the cool things happening at Peter White Public Library and the library universe beyond, straight from the mouths of the people who know it best, library nerds. I'm Marty Achatz, Adult Programming Coordinator for Peter White Public Library. And joining me in Nerds Are Us today is Adyson Guidebeck from PWPL Circulation Department. Welcome to the podcast, Adyson.
Thanks for having me. I've heard great things about being on here. So.
Well, hopefully you'll still feel like that after we're done. But I'm excited to be able to sit down and get a little nerdy with you today. Now, we have been trying to make this happen for a few weeks. So, Adyson, you have been a part of PWPL Circulation Department for a couple months now, and you are becoming a familiar face for PWPL patrons as they check out books or put books on hold or sign up for library cards or any of the other really crucial things that the Circulation Department does for the public. All of the behind-the-scenes stuff that keeps the library running smoothly for our regulars and our visitors. And with NMU coming back into session, I hate to warn you, but it's going to get a little crazy in the next few weeks. Yeah. So
I'm not prepared myself. I start classes on Monday.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. I start teaching on Monday, too.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's going to be fun. So
schedules are changing.
Schedules are changing. You know, it's in the air. So,
yes.
Well, we are going to be finding out a little bit more about you in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we have to play this little game called Word on the Nerd, Adyson. I'm going to ask you 3 library nerd questions about yourself, and you have to answer them for listeners.
Okay.
So, Adyson, are you ready to play?
Word on the Nerd.
All right, Adyson, this is going to be a little game of Would You Rather. I'm going to ask you 3 Would You Rather questions, and you have to truthfully answer them. And today, since we are close to the start of September, all of our questions will have something to do with pumpkin spice. I don't know how you feel about pumpkin spice, so we'll see about this. I will say this from the get-go. Pumpkin spice, not my favorite thing in the world. So,
I don't gravitate towards it.
Okay,
but,
well, these questions might be a little bit more difficult then. All right, so here's your first question. Would you rather start your day eating pumpkin spice English muffins, or would you rather start your day eating pumpkin spice Pop-Tarts?
As much as it sounds less appealing, probably the English muffins, because it's probably got a little bit more stuff in it that's better for you than Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, I would think so. And plus you can cover it up with like jam or butter or cream cheese or something.
To maybe like mask out the flavor a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's,
I would think that a muffin would have just a hint. Whereas a Pop-Tart would be just like
the filling and the frosting. Yeah, that's fair.
I agree with you. I would go with the English muffins as well. All right, now the questions might get a little harder from here on out. So here's your second question. Would you rather have to wear pumpkin spice perfume for a month?
Ooh.
Or would you rather have to use pumpkin spice shampoo for a month?
Shampoo.
Why?
Because I might not smell it as much if it's in my hair, because I've noticed even when I use like strongly scented shampoo in the shower, I don't really smell it much afterwards. Okay. But with perfume, like it would just reek. And I feel like if that was for a month, then it would just be like, I just smell that all the time under my nose.
It would be on your coat, it would be on your shirts, everything.
I couldn't handle that.
So you would rather take a few minutes of gagging underwater doing your hair than, okay. Well, I would agree with you there as well. So, all right, now this is the last question, and I think it's the hardest. All right. Would you rather get a 3-day hangover from drinking pumpkin spice moonshine, or would you rather eat pumpkin spice dog treats? I told you it was going to be the hardest one.
Honestly, maybe the dog treats.
The dog treats?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because
Okay,
you just get it
explain
over
that.
with. You just eat it, you get it over with. Like, I know sometimes people even just, because that's a little bit more tame, like baby food, and sometimes that can be disgusting, even though we feed it to babies. But the dog treats, I feel like it's the same concept, where it's like, you wouldn't want to eat that, but I know people try it out of curiosity or whatever, so you just eat it, you're done with it.
And then you don't have the 3-day
No.
hangover pumpkin moonshine thing. Yeah.
Neither sound pleasant, but at least that one's kind of like, you just eat it and
What
you're
if
over
I had
with.
said you have to eat pumpkin spice dog treats for 3
3
days?
days.
Let's change the question a little bit. Which one?
I'd probably still do the dog treats.
I would do the dog treats too. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever had moonshine, but it is not pleasant.
I have not, but I've heard it does not sound good.
It's incredibly strong, and it's just disgusting. I don't think I've ever had pumpkin spice moonshine,
no.
but it's not.
Because if
not
regular
good.
is bad enough, then pumpkin spice would probably
bad.
be. Yeah.
It's bad. All right. All right. Well, there. You know what? We agree. So I think this is going to go well. So, all right. So we've come to the end of that pumpkin spice edition of Word on the Nerd. This time with Adyson Guidebeck from PWPL's Circulation Department. And now the time has come, Adyson, to find out a little bit more about you. So it's time for you to share with us the Word. So Adyson, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, how you came to be here at PWPL.
Yeah, I'm the newest addition to the Circulation Department, and I'm actually born and raised from Marquette. And I've, as growing up, I didn't go to the library a lot, but as I got older as a teenager, it was kind of a place that I found as just a little private sanctuary, and I always found really cool books that maybe I didn't have access to at a school library, or it just felt more comfortable going into the public library.
Okay. So did you spend a lot of time in the teen zone, or just, okay.
Yeah, that was the go-to place. I might have not, hung out there, but I was always going through the, aisles.
So you were familiar with Amanda, and, yeah, she's wonderful. So what kind of, have you always wanted to work at a library, or is this just I've got to get a job while I go to school, or what's going on?
I mean, a little bit of both. I think that I've wanted to do this kind of work, whether it be working at a coffee shop or a bookstore, so similar to a library. And I've worked at a bookstore, and that wasn't as comfortable and cozy as this.
Which bookstore did you work at?
The NMU bookstore.
You worked at the NMU bookstore.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just a little intense because it's
it's very intense.
It's very intense. Yeah. So it's not just you're talking to people. It's everyone's expecting something from you, kind of.
Right. And they show up and they look at the prices of their little books that are $70 a piece. They go, what the heck?
Yeah. And I'm just the one giving them the book. So it's kind of
But people get angry, and they take it out on anybody that they see that looks official.
And also, it's not like I'm not a student, too. So it's just, I understand the struggle or the frustration, but I'm on the other end of it. I'm the worker, so they kind of just don't really understand that I am in school just like they are.
Yeah, I worked at a bookstore for a good 5 or 6 years. Not NMU's bookstore, but there was a bookstore. Maybe you're too young to remember Book World, but
no, I remember that.
Oh, you remember? Yeah, I worked at Book World for a good 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And I actually enjoyed working at Book World, but it wasn't quite as intense as working at the bookstore at NMU, where it's just a totally different kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's also very order based. We have to fulfill orders, and that's primarily what we do. Other than merchandise stuff, or if people just come to the counter, but a lot of it was just packaging orders. And something that I thought was funny is people would come in 15 minutes after placing order during the first week of classes. They're hey, I placed an order, wondering if it's ready for pickup, and I'm you're probably 500 in line. I don't even think we saw your order come in yet.
So now I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. But what was the straw that broke the camel's back in working at NMU's bookstore? And you don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
I'm comfortable with that. I think that there was the semester ended, and it was a good closing point for me. I knew I wanted to find different work, and I think I really hated working register there because we had such complicated register systems, and that always whenever I was put on register during my shift, I was okay, I'd have to like breathe and like talk myself through it because like it just didn't cooperate with me. I feel like every time I touched a button, it would like explode, and I'd always have to call somebody to come help. And then like the people that came in, like they might have not said anything, but it just felt like they were in a rush. So then I was like, I'm sorry. So then it just felt really, really overwhelming.
And usually when people come into the NMU bookstore, they're in a rush.
They are, yeah.
Usually they're like, I got this. This is my thing. This is what I got to get going. I got to get back to class. So please, let's get this
or
done.
it's parents and it's like the there was like athlete signing or something like that, and all the families came in to get a bunch of merchandise, like at least $200 worth to some point.
Really?
And they were like trying to get to a game or trying to get to their dinner or something, so they were just like tapping their foot. Like it was like 6 people: the mom, the dad, the aunt, the uncle, grandma, grandpa, their like siblings.
So you're making me
like
anxious just talking about it right now. Yeah. Is it as bad as when you're like? Is it as bad as when you're like 5 people deep at the circulation desk waiting to get checked out?
No, I honestly can handle that. Like I definitely feel like it's a different type of overwhelming, but it's like everyone that for the most part that I interact with is like, take your time. Like I'll be signing someone up for a library card, and it might take a while, or at the beginning it did, because there's a lot of steps to it, and it was a lot to remember. Yeah. So I was always like, thanks for your patience, and I still do that sometimes just because it is a lot of information, but like everyone's very, very patient and understanding, and I think that the demographic is a little different.
Well, you know, I always say, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, we have some of the best patrons here at the library. They're patient, they're supportive, and they're understanding, too. When things are going wrong and, you know, like the computer system's down, they don't get all wound up at us and stuff like that. So, whereas Northern the bookstore just doesn't have that. And I remember when Northern wasn't a Barnes & Noble, when it was like privately owned by the bookstore. I mean, by the university. Yeah. And I don't know, the atmosphere of it changed even from going from a privately owned university bookstore to Barnes & Noble. Totally different thing. You're dealing with corporate stuff. Those registers probably straight from Barnes & Noble from all their stores, which is not fun.
If their systems were down at corporate, our systems were down.
Oh, see.
So it was like an outage everywhere, and we'd be like, sorry, our systems aren't working. So
you put up signs and everybody goes, what am I supposed to do?
We would have to manually take their information, but there was a day where it kept happening, and we would like go to, I think it was book returns, and you're supposed to like get their information, scan their books in, make sure that they all go through, and make sure all their books are returned, and like the system kept going down, so we had to have people write down their names and their phone numbers, and like we put it with the books that they returned, but then like they'd walk away and the system would boot back up again. So like,
oh my gosh, that sounds hideous.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely hideous. So, and now I have to ask this question, because I remember as an undergraduate, you would spend $400 or $500 on books. And I'm sorry we're focusing so much on the bookstore, but we'd spend $400 or $500 on books for a semester, right? Get all these books, and then you come to return them, you know, and you would get, for a book that you paid $30 for, you'd get like $2. Is that still the case?
Yes. Yeah, if we're buying back, it was usually like maybe $2. If it was like over $10 or like $20, be like, wow, you're getting a deal for it. yeah.
It's just like, wow, I spent $200. Here's $15. Go to McDonald's.
And we would always say too, like, if they're not happy with the price, I would be like, you don't have to sell it to us. Like, we'll just tell you what it's worth, and if you don't want it, we recommend selling it somewhere else. So,
well, yeah, you know, and I mean, there's lots of options now, like renting books as opposed to buying books, which is so much cheaper and so much. That's how my daughter got through college without having thousands of dollars in books.
Yeah, and then also having to carry them around.
Yeah. You know, and of course, I mean, things have really changed since I was an undergraduate. I mean, I remember, believe it or not, in the library over at Northern, I remember card catalogs. So before that's how old I am. But but you also have the, you know, like electronic books where you can check them out as well, which is so much smarter and so much cheaper for students and everybody else.
Yeah, so if it's a format that works for you, then I try to use it. I mean, I know sometimes you can learn better with a physical book and like highlighting or writing in it. If that's, you know, something you need to do, then sometimes getting an ebook doesn't work. But I think that a lot of the times it's a lot more functional or accessible to people.
Yeah. Now, what are you studying at Northern? You said you're an NMU student, so...
I'm starting my art and design associate degree.
Design, okay.
Yeah, I've been doing gen eds, and I was very unhappy, and I was kind of like, what am I working towards? I had no set in stone, and then I was really overwhelmed at the idea of committing to a bachelor's degree. And I just kind of like through word of mouth found out about the associate program, and like there's no like... You're not specializing in anything. You're kind of just dabbling in like, you don't have to get a, like, I can't think of the word. Like, when you're in a bachelor's degree, you have to, like, have a specific thing that you're working towards. Like,
yeah, like, you have to work towards, I mean, you have so many credits that you need to get in a certain area and stuff like that. So...
It's a lot more, like, there's a lot more room to play around, and I feel like being able to kind of take different electives and take different classes, I'll find what I want to, like, explore within art, but I just don't have anything that I'm, like, particularly drawn to, so I kind of want to just...
So you want to try all kinds of different things? Is there one kind of media that you're most used to or like better than others? Yeah,
I feel like I'm pretty bad at traditional mediums like drawing, painting, and so I feel like I like photography a lot.
Okay.
That's something that I don't have any fancy camera. I just take it on my phone, but I notice that, like, if I find something that looks interesting, I'll take a picture of it in, like, a certain way, so that's something I like to play with.
And are you good at, like, photo working and stuff like that? I don't know what they call it now.
Yeah, I haven't really dabbled with any, like, programs on my computer or anything like that, which that's another reason why I'm excited to start this program is that I'll have so much more access to programs and also, like, having the, like, set space to work. Like, I won't have to try to find different equipment or set aside time. Like, I'll be forced to work with these specific things, and I don't feel like it will be overwhelming or like it will draw like interest away from the topic. I think I will actually be able to like hone in on skills that I don't really have right now. So
I think digital media is such an interesting interesting thing when you see the art, the videos people make and the pictures. I mean, just really beautiful. And some of my best students, even though I teach in the English department, have been digital media people. So now you said you took care of your gen eds.
Yeah.
Okay. So since I teach in the English department, this is just me, curiosity. What did you take any English classes? You took EN 111, EN 211. Did you take anything beyond that?
I did not, but I am tempted if I have an extra credit to take creative writing.
Creative writing,
yes,
okay.
Because I think I really do like writing. English is my favorite subject, but I have a really hard time writing academically. So without those guidelines, I think I've been able to like find it as a really good creative medium for me. But when there's so much restriction on it of like having to write an essay with a certain amount of words with a certain format, like I can still write good papers, but it feels really like
it's hard.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been writing for so long. I mean, my master's is in fiction, my MFA is in poetry. I teach composition and all that stuff, and I've taught creative writing too. But it's just a different mindset, you know, to do like a researched kind of paper versus you have to write a short story or a creative nonfiction essay or something like that. Yeah. Totally different. I totally get where you're coming from. Well, I'll just recommend if you still need like a gen ed credit and you want to do an English thing, you know, there's some really good people who teach mythology, good books, intro to film.
I've heard good things about good books,
Intro to film. I'm teaching a synchronous good books this semester online, but we meet twice a week in Zoom, and I'm doing all books dealing with mental illness. Okay. So everybody approaches that a different way, but I will say that I'm probably one of the best teachers. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to say that. Don't need to toot
my own horn, but yeah.
No, but I mean, there's so many good instructors in the English department. Yeah. So, but if you need any guidance on, you know, what classes to take and who to take them with, I'd be more than willing to share that.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Yeah, I my favorite professor, one of my favorite professors, was Kim Rosewall, and she's an English professor who I did gender studies with her, the intro to gender studies class with her, and that was really nice.
You know, she's wonderful, and I mean the gender studies department and that whole thing is really strong too. I would suggest. This is just me. You can talk to your advisor on that because what the hell do I know? But you know, get an associate's degree, and maybe you're going to end up wanting to go and finish up and do a bachelor's. And if you do that, and you really love creative writing in that, I mean, there's no saying you can't get like a minor in creative writing from the English department. In fact, they're looking for majors and minors, and so keep that in mind, because I think that you've always struck me as a creative kind of person. So I think that so when you're writing, what kind of writing do you like to do? Is it short fiction, poetry, or anything like that?
Poetry. I think that was a really good outlet when I had like...
That's a really good answer.
Yeah, a lot of struggles. It was a really good outlet for me to kind of like, if I was dealing in a really bad place mentally, I think that was what I went to. And looking back, like, it's hard to read it sometimes because it's very personal and it's very reflective of my mental state at the time. But I also am like, wow, that's beautiful. Like, I can't believe I wrote that. Like, the words that I was able to come up with, or just the poem in itself. Like, I was just like, I only can come up with that when I'm at my worst sometimes. Isn't that's
so interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, you're feeling the worst or dealing with some of the worst one of the worst things that you've ever dealt with. And you can sit down and create something that's really beautiful out of that, which is... I mean, which is really wonderful, because it's such a great, and I think that art, whatever you're going to be doing, photography and everything like that, could also have that kind of outlet as well. But there's something about, in particular for me, poetry that allows you to go to places that generally you wouldn't go to at any other times in your life. So. And getting back to the library, since we've been talking, but and also, like just reading things that are so close to you, I mean, there are so many poets out there. Like, if you're struggling with whatever it is, gender identity or depression or bipolar. I mean, there's all kinds of poets and writers out there that can speak to you, so well, I wish you luck in your pursuit of your associate's degree, and I look forward to you becoming an English major or minor and seeing you around the department a little bit. But of course, now that you're here at the library and you've got, let's see, an associate's degree takes 2 years. How many more years do you have, right?
Including this semester, I have 3 more.
3 more years. So you're here at least at the library for 3 years. Okay, I'm holding you to that, and I'm going to let Melissa, the head of the circulation
I don't
department,
plan on going anywhere, so yeah.
I mean, there's, honestly, all kidding aside, the people who work here are the best. They really are, and they're very supportive and everything like that. So, I mean, it really is a wonderful work environment. So
this is the best job I've ever worked at. Like, I think between the work itself not being that overwhelming and, like, I think it's just the fact that there's no drama and everyone supports each other. And, like, when I was learning, like, and training at the beginning, like, everyone was like, you're going to make mistakes for a while and no one's going to be mad at you for making those mistakes. And so I've just come to, like, learn without really any, like, pressure to be perfect at my job, and just wanting to learn and be better at my job without stress. Yeah. So,
well, I came to my job currently at the library from a cardiovascular office. Cardiovascular office. So when you make a mistake in a cardiovascular office, it can really have some serious repercussions. Yeah. So, yes, that's the one thing that I was much relieved when I took this job, doing programming and working for the library, was like, if I mess up, nobody's going to die. So that's a good thing. That's a really
different
good
level
thing.
of stress.
It's a different level of stress. They might get a little angry because their book is delayed a week, or that they didn't get to see this concert or something.
But their
like
week
that.
goes on.
But their week goes on, and they're still going to be breathing at the end of the day. So that's all a good thing, right?
Yes.
So. All right. Well, welcome to the library.
Thank you.
I'm so well. My office mate Andrea just came in, and she loves Adyson as much as I do. So we're just so excited that you are here and that you're going to be here for at least 3 years.
Yeah, everyone's been spreading a lot of love, so I appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's the word from Adyson Guidebeck from the Circulation Department about herself and her love of books and libraries and a lot of other things. But I can't let you leave the Fortress of Nerddom just yet, Adyson.
Oh, okay.
First, we have to find out what you've been reading that's been distracting you recently. Okay. It's a little segment on the podcast we call Off the Shelf. All right, Adyson, what book would you like to recommend to our listeners today?
Okay. I recently, for the summer reading program, I was just finding random books to read, and on my to-read list, I had On a Sunbeam by Tillie Walden.
Okay.
And I'm a big lover of graphic novels, and it's a very, very pretty graphic novel that's kind of like in its own world. I've read some other books by the same author. I think it was Are You Listening? And like they're able to create like a familiar but also like completely like foreign world through their storytelling. And I think like the graphics do like.
Is she? Are they the author and the
I believe
artist?
So. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's kind of about like finding yourself. It's about finding chosen family. It's, I think Mia is the main character, and she, they're like joins a crew that fixes up different like old broken down like galactic buildings. And through that, she was trying to like reconnect with an old friend / her first love that she met during her time during like private school. And so it's just like an adventure between her trying to reconnect with her and then like developing the relationships with this chosen family that she's met, and then finding yourself. It's like affirming your sexuality. So it's just a very like fun but also very emotional journey, and like it's beautiful. Like the graphics are beautiful.
All right. And is this a how is it categorized? Is it an adult graphic novel or a young adult graphic novel? Or
I think it's teen. I'm
it's
pretty
teen?
sure. Yeah.
Okay. But you know what? Some of the best books coming out, whether they're graphic novels or just regular novels and other books, some of the best ones coming out these days are for young adults and teens.
Yeah.
They really are. So
yeah, I kind of just like will randomly be walking around and I'll just find either a book that I've been wanting to read, or like I'm just like, this sounds so interesting, and it's always in the teen section. I mean, yes, I'm a young adult, but it's just like it just speaks to me still.
Yeah, and I think that of the authors that do those kinds of young adult books, they go to places that sometimes adult writers won't touch. You know, and you know, here's the thing that I always say. You know, there's always a little kid, or a teenager inside all of us, no matter how old you are. I mean, the things that happen to you as a child and a young adult stay with you your whole life. So that's why I think the books from the teen zone and the graphic novels and everything like that still speak to adults, because we can definitely identify with them. So, yeah. Okay, so that's On a Sunbeam by Tillie Walden, you said. All right. Well, there you have it. That's Adyson's recommendation of a book that you should pick up off the shelf. And believe it or not, we have come to the end of this week's Getting to Know You episode of Library Nerds with Words. I want to thank Adyson Guidebeck from PWPL Circulation Department for stopping by Nerd Mart today. Come back. Andrea always waits to see what I'm going to come up with. Come back next week when I will be sitting down with Heather Steltenpole, PWPL's Development Director, to talk about the upcoming Friends of the Library book sale, which is going to be happening later in September. So until that time, everyone, stay nerdy. Thank you for listening to Library Nerds with Words, Peter White Public Library's weekly podcast, giving you the word on what's cool at the library. The theme for the podcast is Happy Clappy by John Bartman, used courtesy of Pixabay. This episode was written and produced by Martin Acketts and sponsored by Peter White Public Library. Until next week, pick up a good book, listen to some good music, watch a good movie, attend a great event, and remember, library nerds are the coolest people around.